generally in our country, opportunities given to girls are far lesser than given to boys. And more affluent the family, the more protective they are towards their daughters. The more confident a girl is as she is growing older, the things that she affects around her are that much more. First is to play with your child from the perspective of actually enjoying it with them, not to look at it from, acha, aaj hi Ronaldo banana hai. We normally tell parents, fathers especially, that you come here not to be coaches. Your daughter is very happy for you to be here as a father. Like, Papa is seeing me today. What's fed to us, what we discussed or what we talk about in schools is largely got to do with result-based sports. But what about that girl who's sitting in one corner of the class, shy, but really loves to play?
Hi, welcome to the Sitaara podcast. Today we have with us Richard, the founder of Art of Sport, where you work at the overall development of young children through sports. Along with that, Richard is also an ex-marketer, a triathlete, and father of two wonderful girls. Welcome to the Sitaara podcast, Richard.
Thank you very much, Manju. Thank you for having me here.
It's a pleasure. Um, Richard, through today's podcast, what we really want to do is to understand why is sports important, and what role does sports play in a child's development.
Yeah.
I think that's importantly the first part of it. And the second one, we would really want to help our parents understand as to how do they navigate this journey,
Yeah.
right? How do they introduce sports? What should their expectations be? And sports are all about ups and downs, right?
True.
And how do they help their child navigate through this? So let's get started, Richard. This is a topic that's very close to my heart too.
Yep.
So super excited to be having this discussion with you.
Likewise.
So Richard, to get started, I've been a fan of the art of sports ever since I've heard about it. But for our viewers' sake, would love for you to take them through in terms of what is art of sports and what do you do there?
Yeah. So the art of sport is a setup that is focused on the overall development of young girls from the age of 4 to about 16 in different age groups. The whole idea behind this is, how do we get girls from that young age to right into their teens to familiarize themselves with a team sport, understand concepts of the sport itself, but also their own ability in terms of the physical capacity. From the social side, which is the more important side, is how do we build, through all this, how do we build their confidence? How do we get them to understand that it's okay to say what you feel like and not just what you think? And we have various ways in which we do it, because we believe that, or I believe that, as children grow older, their interaction with the world increases. And so if there's a platform for them or an experience for them to familiarize themselves, as small as sitting in a huddle and waiting for your chance to speak in a huddle, how was your day? A simple question like that generates confidence, because you're speaking it in a group of people who are not your family. So from the physical side to the social side, which builds the emotional and the mental confidence. So we are unflinchingly focusing on these aspects of the art of sport.
That's amazing, Richard. I think there's so many things that you said there that we could double down on and have an hour-long conversation. Spoke about mental and social skills, but what I loved about the answer, one part about the answer, is where you said talk about what they feel and not just about what they think, right?
Yeah.
And that's, like, I was thinking through that, and it's sometimes so different between the two of those things. Richard, you said girls above the age of 4 to 16.
Yes.
Why the focus on girls, Richard, and how did you come to that decision?
Well, when I was in my corporate job, before we started the art of sport, there was an incident. So my older daughter at the time was about 6 years old. This is, I think, 2014 or something. I'm forgetting now. But she was skating. We put her in a skating class. And one day when we went to pick her up from her class, we noticed that the coach was leaning at the railing,
Okay.
uh, checking his phone,
Okay.
and he was talking in his very authoritative voice of like, "Chalo, ho gaya, one more round." So children at that age of 4, 5, and 6 were actually looking a little intimidated.
Of course.
And kids at that age, they pick up tone more than what an adult actually is saying.
True.
So if you say "how are you" to say "how are you," they pick up that tone.
Yeah.
And so we noticed all this, and Nupur and I were that day in the evening was like, how many children of that age across our country are discouraged by the concept of playing simply because of the way in which teachers are communicating to them. PE teachers or sports teachers are communicating to them. So they deny themselves the experience of play, the joy of play. So we started the Auto Sport with that concept of, all right, the pillar of the Auto Sport, first of all, has to be patience. It has to be understanding children. So children have to be first, right? And how do we get them to be more confident in all these aspects, what I was just telling you? That one. Then the second thing is, generally in our country, the opportunities given to girls are far lesser than given to boys.
True.
Generally, I'll say. All right. So, and more affluent the family, the more protective they are towards their daughters.
Okay.
All right. So, we're like, all this is very good, but then what about the girls themselves?
True.
What about them who want to go out and play? So, for a boy, if it's raining and he wants to go out and play, so it's like, oh, let's chalo, jaake khelo, no problem. Or if it's hot, you go and play, no problem. Come back, drink water. But for the girl, why do you want to go out? It's so hot. It's raining. Your skin, all these things will sort of interfere with them wanting to go out and play.
Yeah.
So we took a stance. So we're like, look, we'll focus on girls. And, from what we have read, from what we have observed, when I say we, Nupur and me, the more confident a girl is as she is growing older and she grows into a woman, the things that she affects around her are that much more. Because women, I mean, it's in the DNA, they multitask brilliantly.
Exactly.
All right. But even as older as they're better friends, when it comes to parenting or parenthood, when it comes to relationships. So these aspects, if we look at it from when they're children, as girls, and we say, all right, you focus on your body. Right now at 4, 5 years, you play. Through play comes, you're physically fitter.
Yeah.
You're physically fitter, you feel better. You feel better, you feel mentally alert. And how these aspects how these aspects actually change or affect in a positive way their interaction with the world and their relationships. So we said we'll focus on children, yes, but on girls. So these are the two aspects of it. One is children, but in a gentle way, but in a inquisitive way. So they get to say what they have to feel all the time, right? Because that's usually, when it comes to children, because they can't verbalize too much as they are in that age of 4, 5, 6, 7, or 8, actually even up to about 11, they are not heard of. You know what I mean? And usually adults around in the house, they don't have much patience or time for that.
Yes.
Or sometimes they don't even pick it up.
Yeah.
So we focus on these aspects, which hopefully help them to understand themselves emotionally better. But it's all done through sport. It's not done in a classroom setup.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know how would anyone teach these things in a classroom setup. Richard. I think
Start with.
sports as a medium
Yeah.
is great. Richard, there are a lot of things that you spoke about that want to double down on, and one of them is, you said discipline. Like, sports has always been a very disciplined activity. There is
Yeah.
set guidelines from that point of view. And I think personally, for someone like me who's played sport, I think that's something that I've learned.
Yeah.
But from what you're saying, this is a very different perspective in terms of sports,
Yeah.
right? For it to be a safe space,
Yeah.
for people to express themselves, that inquisitiveness
Yeah.
that you were talking about, which through which you operate the art of sport. That's all very new. So how do you is there that discipline part of it also comes in? How do you then
Yeah.
operate?
See, let's go back to the girls.
Yeah.
So first of all, what I mentioned to you earlier on is that give them that experience,
Yeah.
which they might not normally get or usually get in school. Call it for whatever reason. The sheer number of students, boys taking sort of charge,
Yeah.
maybe the attitude of the PD teacher as well, which
Yeah.
plays a huge part.
Of course.
All right. Because they look at it from the concept of, okay, we have to win.
Yeah.
We have to get a winning team.
Yeah.
Okay. But what about that girl who's sitting in one sort of, one corner of the class, shy, but really loves to play? But the play doesn't mean it's competitive the way it's normally spoken about.
Yeah.
Okay. Now keep those kind of children in mind.
Yeah.
We are reaching out to those kind of children. We say, all right, a girl who aims to be a national tennis player, for example, she will be a national tennis player. Whether she'll go for practice, whether it's raining outside, whether it's hot, whether there's a hailstorm, she'll come up with ways where the practice will carry on. Whether it is slamming tennis balls in the walls in the house.
Yes.
All right. But we are for those girls who will figure out in the parameter of the sports the way it's normally organized, who will probably not be in the top 10, 20 or 30, but who has that drive to play. That's one. So sports, as discipline as it is, yes, in a competitive field, brings people together, brings children together as well. So when they come together, how do you build a sense of camaraderie? How do you build a sense of togetherness? How do you build a sense of commitment without being instructional the way it is done in school? How do you leave it up to them? For example, say a group is, and this happens so often in our sessions. The whole team or the group is playing basketball dribbles, and they're running from one end of the floor to the other end. There's one girl who's actually just walking, and who's doing it in such a lazy way. Now, she could have had a tiring day. She's probably sleepy, maybe not slept well. All these aspects.
Yeah.
All right. So we first factor that in. So we ask her, what happened? Didn't sleep well? Did you need too much? Feeling tired? So I had a long day, this, that, fine. But how do we get them involved if it's not that case? So the rest are playing really well. I've seen you when you jog and dribble, you're really good. So once in a while, if you're doing this right now, it's good. And you leave it to her. And when she sees the group, because it's the group that drives each individual, and then you see her jog, and then you see her jog more often, and then you know that the group is doing the work. We're just we are just vehicles to manage them. So we look at sport as a space of them coming together. From a discipline perspective, there is discipline. Of course, there's discipline. And the discipline is to, when the coach is given an instruction, you have to listen.
Yeah.
You have to be in the present. You don't have to be up in La La Land looking out there.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Discipline from a perspective of respect to the coaches, respect to your teammates.
Yeah.
We teach them. Wrong. We teach or guide them when you're playing in two groups or two teams, and where there's an element of competitiveness. The winning teams gives a high five. The losing team also a high five for the effort you've done. And the winning team will go across to the losing team and shake the hand, saying, guys, well played. And it happens session after session.
Yes.
All right. So the whole idea is we did well, but let's move across and shake hands to with our competitors.
Yeah.
So we build this aspect into it, because go to if you come to think about it, as we grow older in life, these kids or as these children go older in life, they're going to get into study groups in, say, middle school, senior school, projects to submit. Undergraduate is all about group studies. Then office, of course, is a very different
Yeah.
environment. So it's not what we teach them, it's that familiarity that is actually the repetitiveness of the familiarity of being in a subgroup,
Yeah.
being in a group, the structure around it. So as they grow older, when it comes to studies and group studies, that experience is translated into the classroom, into a group study, into a leadership role,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
into a good communicator.
Yeah.
And that's what sport is at the end of the day, if guided well.
Exactly. No, I think very, very nicely put, Richard. But uh, to create sports has to create sport or playing sport, that whatever, how many ever hours window that
Yeah.
you have in a day,
Yeah.
something that you look forward to,
Yeah.
you want to go there,
Yeah.
and you have fun.
Yeah.
And through that process,
Yeah.
learn so many different things
Yeah.
that you spoke about.
Yeah.
That that would that summarize what
Yeah.
art of sport?
Absolutely. It's all seamless.
Yeah.
So if you're looking at it, if you look at the group from the outside,
Yes.
you'll just think it's a regular session and a lot of fun taking place.
Yes.
All right. It looks really very ordinary. But there's a lot of thought that goes behind into formatting a session.
True.
Because you have to factor in the personality of each child. You can't just say, all right, this child doesn't run as fast as the other child. All right, so we'll put them in different groups. No, you generate or you come up with creative drills, creative activities that gets these two personalities together in a team. And who communicates with whom and in what way. So the truth of what happens is actually in that moment of just before a drill starts. How do you divide the team? What do you say to the groups? How do you get them to stay quiet and not say, sir, I was doing it, but my team did not do it?
Yeah.
Very
because-
typical of that age, no?
Yes.
At that age of 4, 5, 6, 7, it's all about me.
Yeah.
And then the world is secondary.
True.
It's only as you're growing older, then the world becomes a very real space,
Yeah.
and then it becomes we.
Yeah.
So these are the things that go into it.
Yeah. No, I think very rightly put. I think there are multiple things that you spoke about in terms of how sports help, right? I think a lot of it has already been covered. But if you had to say 2 or 3 things that stand out for you that sports teaches a person, has the biggest learning from sports that a person can take out into their lives, jobs, what relationship, whatever it is, what would those be?
I need to handle challenges, to face failure, and be more aware of yourself. Because you're gonna lose as a team. It's gonna happen.
Yes.
Right. How do you manage that emotionally? It's a very challenging team you're playing with. You have to use your mind. You have to see which of your teammate is playing better on the day than the other.
Yeah.
So you have to manage that challenge of, all right, it's a tough team, but let's work out a solution.
Yep.
So these are the elements that actually I would say takes out from sport and can seamlessly apply it in any aspect of life, whether it's parenthood, relationships in general, or any aspect.
Yes. Yes. No, I've generally found, and maybe there's a little bit of a bias because I've played sports also,
Yeah.
but I've always found people who have played sports to, when I've recruited people, when I've hired people who've been into sports, get into the team a lot more easily.
Yeah.
have a way of like motivating people around
Yeah.
them, getting work done.
Yeah.
And also from that bad day, good day
Yeah.
balance from that point of view,
Yeah.
right? Really
Yeah.
maintain that. I think
Yeah.
that's something that really stands out for
Yeah.
someone who's played, especially a team sport from
Yeah.
that point of view.
But sorry, I'm cutting you off
Yeah.
there, but I think it's important to have a, a meaningful mentor around.
Yes.
That is important.
Mm-hmm.
I think in a rush of results,
Yeah.
we as institutes around children,
Of course.
we focus on the outcome
Mm-hmm.
and not on the process.
Yep.
Because many times adults want children to be where the adults want them to be.
True.
But they don't take a step back, pause,
Yes.
and say, all right, maybe my child is not meant for this sport. Maybe
Yep.
my child wants to play chess because enjoys the whole aspect of mind rather than using the body.
Yeah.
So I think it's also to have mindful mentors around who can pause
Yeah.
and observe children
Yeah.
and keep an eye out for their personalities. I think that's as important.
No, that's so rightly put. I think this whole this thing of playing to win, right?
Yeah.
You need to win. I played like I really tried very hard at cricket, right? Like I think like many kids in India.
Yeah.
My dad was a cricket fanatic. Like he loved cricket. He put me to cricket coaching very early.
Yeah.
I had a really good coach, and I didn't really make it big, right? I didn't really do really well. This no state level, etc. that I've played from that point of view. But today, if you ask me, cricket's given me so much, right? I've learned so much from cricket,
Yeah.
and I think I'm half the person that I am today thanks to cricket, my coach, the ecosystem that was around from that point. Today when you look at parents expectation, right, and
Yeah.
you spoke about creating this safe space, etc., it's significantly easy when you talk about it in isolation, but
Yeah.
there's the whole parent factor.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And when parents introduce kids to sports to kids, there is that expectation for them to excel. I think
Yeah.
sometimes parents want their kids to do well in everything that they do.
Yeah.
And that obviously comes from some amount of inspiration from everything that you see around, right? There are so many stories where people have defied odds and made it really big in terms of sports,
True.
have done really well for themselves, are role models today to people. And every parent wants their child to be there somewhere,
True.
right? So it's only natural. But how then does a parent go about introducing sports to kids? What should their role be? What should their expectation be? And how?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think, and this is what I was mentioning to you earlier, I think one step before
Yeah.
is for parent to introspect first on themselves first. Introspect literally as your what about their own childhood to start with. What ticked for them, what did not work for them. Their experience as children when it came to the playing field, or their experience as children when interacting with a PT teacher. Because a lot of this is unconscious baggage, which you just pass on to your next of kin.
Yeah.
All right. So I think before that stage is to really maybe pause a little bit and say, all right, everyone's talking of cricket in this country, but what was my experience and maybe what I didn't like as a child? Did I like that element of being pushed to the limit, to my own limit?
Yeah.
Did I enjoy the aspect of, standing in the field for 7 hours in the heat? No water, nothing, just standing, whether it's mid-on or third field, whatever it is. And then arrive at, all right, my child is 3 years, 4 years. Usually around 4 years, it starts where, okay, they can maybe in bits stay away from the parent, 4.5, and play some with the group. All right. And then they want to go back to the parent again.
Yep.
So first is to play with your child.
Mm-hmm.
Look, in my experience with both my children,
Yeah.
the play started, I think, when they were crawling.
Mm-hmm.
But very, like you roll a very soft cotton football. They roll it back to you after 2 minutes.
Yeah. Yeah.
So you have to be patient.
Yes.
And then you have to have various sounds and make it exciting.
Yeah.
As they're growing older, then the familiarity or the repetitiveness is crucial.
Mm-hmm.
But not from a perspective of I want to do this eventually,
Mm-hmm.
but from the perspective of actually enjoying it with them.
Yeah.
And fathers, especially as windows to the world,
Mm-hmm.
if their involvement with their children starts at that age where the baby is not even crawling, or say when it comes to sport, when they start to crawl,
Yeah.
and then you come up with various very simple, ways of interacting with them through an object,
Mm-hmm.
and enjoying it,
Yeah.
they will pick it up.
Yeah.
They will pick it up, and you will and you will realize this about yourself, that you are enjoying it. So where did half an hour go, 1 hour go, to time hi gaya,
Exactly. Mm-hmm.
So it's not to outsource this.
Mm-hmm.
Now for a parent or for parents in a nuclear family that actually are working,
Yeah.
one can take out time over weekends.
Yes.
It's not that we all
Yeah.
we can be as busy as we want to be, fine, but we can always take out
Yeah.
time. All right. It's I personally, I don't buy the whole concept of I don't have time through 7 days.
Mm-hmm.
One can take out time,
Yes.
especially for your own child.
Yeah.
Right. So even if it is for working parents, could be a Saturday, Sunday.
True.
Could just be at home. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, like some days where some days at home, with my kids, two of them, we stand in three corners of the living room and we're throwing tennis balls. So we throw and catch,
Yeah.
and then we count.
Mm-hmm.
And then it becomes mentally, it becomes like the stress. You reach 30, 40, 50, and now you can't drop.
Yes.
But you be in that moment.
Yes. Yes. Yeah.
And then you take them to a field,
Mm-hmm.
and then you just very non-instructionally play with them.
Play with them. No.
The idea is to enjoy with them,
Enjoy. Yeah.
not to look at it from, अच्छा आज उसको आज ही रोनाल्डो बनाना है. वो नहीं होगा.
True. True. I think there are a couple of things that you spoke about, right? One is the time part of it. And anytime a parent comes and tells me, for example, time nahi hai, I say, dude,
नहीं.
Instagram has this beautiful setting where you can go and check time spent every day, right? No one's is less than 1 hour.
Yeah.
And I'm like, why do you do Instagram to get a break?
Yeah.
Get a break with your kid, right? Play with them. It's so much more enjoyable that way.
Yeah, for sure.
And the second part was the starting point for them to be enjoying what they're doing, right?
Exactly.
Having fun while they're playing the
Yeah.
sport is so much more important because, like I was telling you, I played cricket. I've seen KL Rahul used to play with us, right?
Right.
We'd play for the same club. And one thing that I've seen is that persistent hard work that's required to really get it there.
Yeah.
You can't be doing that if you're not enjoying it, right?
Yeah, there has to be a drive.
Exactly.
But those are the kind of people who are 1, 2, 3%.
Exactly.
What about the other 97%? Right.
Yes.
So what sport does, like for people like us, like you and me, we played sport.
Yeah.
And we played at our own competitive
Yes.
levels. All right. And we know what that's done to our lives and to our relationships around us.
Exactly.
All right. This is something which is critical for a child if the child is actually really enjoying.
Mm-hmm.
And was your family, were anyone in your family also involved in cricket the way you were? Like, was it something you did together with someone in the family?
Not really with family. I am the only grandson to both my grandparents. I only have cousin sisters.
Yeah.
I don't have a cousin brother. I think my dad putting me to cricket was also to say, okay, cool. He needs an outlet
An
for
outlet.
sports.
Yeah.
right? And I am super grateful that my dad realized that. So at 10 is when I started going to cricket
Yeah.
coaching, because I think in my neighborhood also, like, I didn't really have boys my age, and that was basically my dad telling me, okay,
Yeah.
cool, this is your place, go, right? And then I started spending like 6 a.m. to 8 p.m. on the cricket ground
Huh.
the whole day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
So,
why I
yes.
was asking
Yeah.
is because when play and fun is
Mhm.
introduced by more on the father,
Yes.
not taking away from the
Yeah.
mothers, but when it's introduced more from the father, the effect is lifelong,
Mhm.
because a mother is very nurturing.
Mhm.
That's the role of the mother.
Mhm.
It's in a DNA.
Mhm.
I'm saying generally speaking,
Yeah.
right? Generally, the role of the father is not just to nurture
Mhm.
and show affection, of course, but to also put a little bit of roughness.
Mhm.
Saying you fell down, oh, okay, come on, it hurt, do
Yeah.
this and move on.
Yeah.
All right. But keeping an eye on the child.
Mhm.
All right. If the child is actually limping, which means there's something serious. All right. So what happens with this is the child, begins to understand that it's okay.
Mhm.
One fall is okay. Two
Yeah.
fall, you fall twice also, that's fine. But
Mhm.
you carry on, you get up and you move on. Right.
Yeah.
So when it's introduced by someone they look up to in the household,
Mhm.
when they move into a group, when they move into an academy,
Mhm.
when they move into a stranger who's instructing them,
Yeah.
they will have more confidence within themselves.
Yeah.
Generally speaking, they'll have more confidence. And then, as we discussed earlier, how that translates into a host of other things for them.
Yeah.
This is ideal scenario, by
Yeah.
the way, I'm telling you.
Yes.
Of
Yes.
course, there are layers under layers, because you can have a coach that is so brutal that the child will not even go back to the sport after that.
Yeah.
And I have known a couple of kids who actually moved away from the sport simply because the coach was just, when I say brutal, verbally was so strict
Yeah.
and just made them do drill after drill till they were past exhaustion.
Mhm. I think that actually brings us to like a very good point. When a parent's looking for a coaching academy or a coaching
Yeah,
a sports center
yeah,
from that point of view, especially at a young age,
yeah.
right? What should a parent look for?
It's interesting you
Uh-huh.
asked this, and I must have been asked this about, I think, about 50, 60 times over the last 8 years.
Mhm.
And one thing I tell all the parents: always first observe the personality of the trainer.
Mhm.
Forget the academy.
Yeah.
Forget if it's Barca or it is Real Madrid. That's by the way, that's all branding.
Mhm. Mhm.
People are running it is very much us Indians here
Yes.
in India, I'm talking about.
Yeah.
All right. So it's not like they're recruiting some European big shot and he's coming and his
Yeah.
whole team is coming. All right. So first observe the personality of the trainer,
Mhm.
how they interacting with children, what are they doing when a drill is being organized and they move away from the trainer. So if it's a football drill, each have to dribble from one end to the other end. If the coach is on one end, if they dribble and they're on the other end of the field,
Yeah.
what is actually the coach doing there? Does he take out his phone and he's checking and you can make out the movement of the thumb?
Mhm.
Or is he actually observing?
Yeah.
Is he making notes? So involvement, empathy,
Mhm.
gentleness, structure.
Mhm.
I think these are the crucial elements I always tell parents that look for a trainer who has at least most of these.
Yeah. So trainer
Because
or academy any day.
yeah,
Yes.
any day.
Yes.
Because there's no shortage of skills, right?
Yeah.
You'll find anyone who'll actually be really good at it.
Mhm.
But how does he or she communicate that to children?
Yeah.
That's important.
Yeah.
Patience, I think, is very important at that
Very-
age.
Yeah. Yeah. And especially at that age when
Very
kids
important.
want to have fun when they play.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Organize fun drills
Yeah. Yes.
and see how the mood changes.
Exactly. No, and to be receptive to say, hey, this is not working, let me do something else.
Yeah.
I think that level
Yeah.
of patience and also,
Spot on.
yeah.
Spot on.
Yeah.
To be absolutely. So read the room.
Yeah.
You may have taken a lot of time in coming up with these 2-3 activities or drills, but it's bombed.
Yeah.
And you can see they're not getting it.
Yeah.
Or you see they're just not being able to put it in play.
Yeah.
Change, have the ability to be creative.
True.
So, and that happens a lot, by the way, at the auto sport. We've planned out stuff and it doesn't work out, like, oh, now what? So we come up with stuff which is, okay, we break them into subgroups.
Yeah.
We get them to do a few goofy things in subgroups. So they're laughing, they're chatting.
Yeah.
And then we get them to play again. So that sense of familiarity sets in, because now I interacted with Manju. Okay, now at least I get to know a little bit of Manju.
Of course.
So I feel, okay, I can be in his group. Stuff
Yeah.
like that.
Yeah. That's super interesting. When it comes to like parents' expectation, again, when it comes to sports, etc.
Yeah.
And I am talking a lot more about this because our interaction with parents, I tried coaching our district cricket team for some time, and this is something that came from my own experience. So there's usually this pressure, right?
Yeah.
And I think there's a little bit of fathers, or especially trying to live their unfulfilled dreams through their kids,
Yeah,
right? It might happen in academics. I think sports they're a lot more passionate about. And sometimes this happens also subconsciously, right?
Yeah.
It could be your own experience, your own unfulfilled dreams, or it could be something else, right? How you were introduced to
Yeah.
sports might not be the best way, etc., which obviously comes out subconsciously. How does the parent navigate this? Is there like you said break the chain, right?
How do the parent navigate
The
to
whole
manage their own expectations?
expectation, their own subconscious bias. You mentioned right at the beginning, break the chain, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. How?
So we normally tell parents, fathers especially, that you come here not to be coaches, right?
Yeah.
Coach job is not yours.
Yeah.
Your child, your daughter is very happy for you to be here as a father. Like, Papa is seeing me today.
Yeah.
So if you shout or you say, oh man, because she's missed one kick, you might say that because you wince, like, oh man, she's missed that kick. But if you say that loud, she might interpret that as she's made a mistake. Galti kari. Then that nervousness bit comes in. The anxiety sets in. And we've seen this over years where fathers get so excited. One father, he came with his camera and all that. We organized this big game and all that. He came with his camera, Zoom and everything. And while he's clicking photographs, he's shouting away, "Oi, why are you doing this? Go back, fall back." So we had to go to him and say, look, click photographs. Let us handle this. Because your daughter looks visibly anxious. So first is to communicate, as you very rightly said. It could be unconscious because you're passionate about sports, and generally I feel for boys and men, sport is a vent which is actually the greatest pacifier. As boys, you play 2-3 hours every evening, you come back, you're relaxed. Otherwise, you're fidgety, you don't know what to use, like pulling the house down. So I think even as when we grow up as men, when we don't have that outlet to vent, could be through sport or just shouting or a pillow fight, whatever it is, that shows in these ways. So maybe it's unconscious, but there's a lot of the frustration that has been pent up, which is actually coming out because there's a field. And because you're not playing, you feel so pulled into it that it's almost like you want to go there and play and you want your daughter to sit out. So I think it's a lot of unconscious sort of transference that actually happens. But we talk to them about it. We say, look, you're as father, you be as father. Cheer her on.
I think that's beautifully put, right? One is be aware of your biases.
Yeah.
Pick a trainer that you can trust.
Yeah.
And then let the trainer do the trainer's job. You be the father.
That's it.
I think that's the most important thing. We spoke about boys and fathers, right? You obviously work with a lot of girls. Like, what are the challenges from a girl's perspective, especially when it comes to sports, dealing with ecosystem, parents?
So with it's been learning, not challenges as
Yeah.
such, but the learning has been you have to be gentle.
Yes.
Not to say you don't be gentle with boys, but there's a different. I'll come to boys,
Yeah.
but with girls, um, be gentle yet firm. Um, show by example as well. Um, also, have a mix of showing discipline and goofiness. Because as a male coach,
Yeah.
you're also taking on unconsciously for them as the father figure.
Yeah.
So if you're doing stuff which is a reminder of their father, you are fitting into that mold that they are living. And maybe they want to come out of that shell unconsciously. So if you are the relaxed coach around, yet disciplined, you are being gentle and mindful, yet firm. That's the structure you're putting for them. And then you watch them really respond to this environment. And I've seen that week after week all these years. This kind of, and it has to come naturally, of
Yeah.
course. And sometimes you have to remind yourself, like,
Yeah.
look, it's not about me, it's about them.
Yeah.
All the time, it's about them. With boys, they fight more. It's more, let's say, it's more physical.
Yeah.
And I let them be because we have a boys group as well. And sometimes it gets to a point where really the shoulder push becomes kushti.
Yeah.
All right. And so the game just stops.
Yeah.
And one guy is just at it with the other guy.
Yeah.
So I don't interfere. Of course, if it gets into a punch,
Of course.
that's different. But they don't do that. But it gets into that whole expenditure of energy, really intense. And I let it be.
Yeah.
And after that, we sit and we have a huddle straight away.
Yeah.
Saying, all right, you did this. How are you feeling right now? You did this. How are you feeling right now?
Yeah.
Energy is all out. Are you feeling that he did this? Are you feeling because he did this, you did this? So we get into this conversation.
Yeah.
What that does is, first, physically, that vent is out in the moment. Then it's being talked about in consciousness.
Yeah.
So it really settles the nerves for them and it calms them down. Yeah. And at the end of it, we have another huddle, boys and girls. And maybe talk about how they felt after this session is over. If one of them had an argument, sit down like, okay, these things are normal.
Yes.
But the important thing is when you walk off the playing floor, you walk off as friends again.
Yeah.
Or as well-wishers to each other. You don't have to be best friends.
True.
But because you're part of a group, you're being part of that group.
Yeah. Yeah. I think this sudden surge of energy, which brings out a lot of emotions, sometimes physical, verbal, I think that actually takes me back to my own childhood. As a child, I used to be super short-tempered. I used to get angry. Like, I was famous in my school as a very short-tempered kid. And everyone asked me, dude, that doesn't sound like you. Right?
I was going to say that, by the way.
Yeah. And I think it was through the whole cricket process itself, because you have so many moments of that high energy dopamine where you behave a certain way and then you get time to reflect.
Yeah.
Like you said, which makes so much difference.
You're right. And sometimes I tell parents this. I've actually spoken more to mothers about this.
Okay.
Perhaps because maybe it's not a familiar territory for them. But to say that it's okay for your son or your daughter to physically actually vent out on the floor. It's actually a good thing.
Okay.
If you think about it, they wake up in the morning. Sometimes when they wake up, they have to. They don't have a choice. If they're angry about it, they have to keep quiet. They have to go to school. Once they're in school, the atmosphere in a school is you have to be a certain way. And that whole rebellious act, you have to suppress.
Yeah.
Okay. So that's vent building up. You come back home, mother's at home or father, dadi, nani, whoever's at home, pehle khao beta, khao. Nahi khana, nahi khao. Khao. All right.
Yeah.
So you're getting frustrated.
Yeah.
Maybe it's the weather, maybe tiredness. So by the time they come to our sessions or by the they come to a playing field, forget art or sport, they come to a field. that's that one place that they get where they could really expend all the energy, shout it out, vent it out, and drain it out of the system.
Yeah.
So a good coach will actually let that happen. Saying, if someone's really shouted at something, at someone else, okay, later can ask you, why he shouted? So because she or he did this.
Yeah.
And let it be, as long as it was not harmful.
Yeah.
So I tell a lot of the parents that your child at the end of the day is good that he or she is venting out because they need that platform on a almost daily basis,
Yeah.
because that's where the system is more regulated. Perhaps they get better sleep
Yeah.
because it's out of the body, it's out of the system, and you never know. And it's happened with us at the Auto Sport, when sometimes you shout, you sometimes end up feeling very heavy because there's a feeling sitting in there.
Yeah.
And that could be from 10 days back, that could be something you're carrying on day to day. And sometimes it's happened where in the groups, a child has ended up crying after shouting
True.
because it has nothing to do with the person she shouted at,
Yeah.
has nothing to do with the playing flow, had something to do with 4 days back, what happened in class or in the library.
Yeah. Yeah.
So she was keeping it all in.
Yes. Yes. I think sports as an outlet has that safe space for you to express, for you to something to look forward to,
Absolutely.
have fun. I think that is what sports need to be first before anything else.
Yeah.
Right?
And also you have, but this is team.
Yeah.
It gets difficult
Yeah.
if it's a single person sport like swimming, tennis,
Yeah.
table tennis.
Yeah.
It gets difficult. And
Sure.
Again, it's the kind of coach that actually is you look at any top player in the single sport arena, it will, and ask them their formative years. Who was their mentor? It'll either be a father, an uncle, or a coach, guided well.
Yeah.
From a Tiger Woods to a Rafael Nadal to a Roger Federer, you name it.
Yeah. So true. I wanted to go back. Richard, you mentioned about difference in terms of your approach, because how boys and girls approach sports might be a little different.
Yeah.
Why do you think this happens? Is this conditioning at home? Is because girls are a little more protected? There is certain amount of strongness expected from boys. Why does this happen? Is that
I think you're right. I think it's could be the unsaid permission. Boys are not normally stopped when they are being really when they're being overactive. Normally, I'm saying they are say "Acha, rehne do," or when they are being overactive, then they are shouted at.
Yeah.
Then there's further anger. So I think one is the inherent being of the gender.
Yeah.
Boys normally are more have more energy in nature than girls. Girls are not given perhaps that permission because they expect it to be in a certain way. Dress pehno,
Yeah.
baal achhi tarah banao,
Yeah.
sit in a certain way,
Yeah. Yeah.
even if you're home, by the way.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm talking home.
Yes. Yes.
Because culture is home.
Yeah.
Your
Of
first
course.
culture and experience is home.
Of course.
So sit in a certain way, you wear certain kinds of
Yeah.
clothes. Uh, 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 your manners have to be in a certain way,
Yeah.
and that could not, and there could be no such sort of high commonality of expectations from a brother.
Yeah.
It's like, why is he allowed to do this? I'm not allowed to do this. And many times parents say, "हाँ, वो तो लड़का है वो," but you're a girl.
Yeah.
Make it sound like it's some kind of some disease, but you're a girl.
Yeah.
So I think largely it's got to do with the culture at home,
Yeah.
which also translates into which also then is the same experience in school. If you look at our schooling system,
Yeah.
largely it's a nurturing, high discipline environment.
Yeah.
right? Uh, the the focus is based on outcome.
Yeah.
The focus is based on adherence to
Yeah.
girls and boys. And that's it,
Mm-hmm.
right? So then it's sort of inbuilt into their own unconscious, like, okay, maybe I should behave this way.
Yeah.
And we've seen in the girls group sometimes when they join in, and uh, sometimes what I do is with the not the teenage group
Yeah.
because they'll maul me,
Uh-huh.
but with the younger lot, I confuse them sometimes. I put on nail polish. I wear these little pendants.
Mm-hmm.
I wear hairbands.
Okay.
Put on lipstick, and they're like, "Coach, why are you wearing pink? Why are you wearing nail polishes?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
put on makeup,
Yeah.
and so break the whole norm of, father figure or a male coach have to behave in a certain. And I get to hear this, by the way, from them.
Yes.
But you're a man. Why are you doing this?
Yeah.
Of course, very innocent,
Yeah.
but it's also
Of
an
course.
insight into their culture,
Yeah.
into what's happening with them.
Yeah. Of course. Yeah.
So these are the kinds of things that we actually do. I personally like to sort of break the norm in my own way, saying it's okay for a man to wear pink, by the way,
Of course.
and
Yeah.
that also that hot pink color.
Yes.
It's fine.
Would have loved to see you that.
I do wear, by the way.
Mhm.
I do wear hot pink t-shirts.
Yes.
I have a hot pink trouser, much to the shock of my male friends, my school friends.
Mhm.
And then they'll start making fun of me. I don't really care. I
Of
not
course.
because they're my school friends,
Yeah.
because it doesn't really affect me. I find it quite amusing.
Yeah.
So it's also about how you introduce children to these concepts,
So true.
which are largely marketed.
Yeah.
If you look at it that
Exactly.
way, so fair and lovely, and the list is endless. Yeah.
Yeah. It's a long list.
Yeah.
Thankfully, some of it's changing, but I think it might take a few
Yeah.
generations to fix.
Yeah. True.
But making a conscious choice today about
Yeah.
fixing that,
Yeah.
right? And I think that's a big responsibility from a
Yeah.
parent's perspective in terms
Yeah.
of how you raise boys, how
Yeah.
you raise girls,
Yeah.
right? To break that barrier or bring
Yeah.
that two sides a lot more closer.
Yeah.
I think it's a huge responsibility. I remember when our daughter used to be a few months old,
Yeah.
right? Super excited to shop for my child, and then and I was surprised that a 3-month-old had a boys and a girls category, because
Exactly.
I'm like, doesn't make a difference.
Exactly. Strange,
How
no?
does it make
Yeah.
a difference? And on the girls' side, we only saw pinks
Yeah.
and rainbows and
Yeah.
butterflies and unicorns, and
True.
we are like,
True.
and we've shopped a lot from the boys section, but
Yeah.
then it's sad. It's sad that that's the reality, right? And I think we significantly need to like go back and relook at so many different things.
Yeah. And it's very
Yeah.
difficult because I think information and visual information, which is just thrown at us from different modes of screen, is all about that.
Yeah.
So I think parents, it's a difficult task
True.
to say, all right, I'll stick to what I believe.
Yeah.
Many cave in,
Yeah.
understandably. But what that results in and how that affects a child,
Yeah.
because that's a life being affected, right?
Yes.
So I think that is something which I think parents could take a step back and say, all right, if my daughter likes black, what's the harm?
Yeah.
It's covering her body,
Mm-hmm.
and get something smart.
Mm-hmm.
If my son likes mustard yellow,
Yeah.
what's the problem?
Of course.
Wants pink shoes, तो क्या हुआ? पहनो,
Exactly.
So it's about, again, knowing the personality of your child,
Mm-hmm.
being comfortable in or secure in your relationship with your child,
Mm-hmm.
which means you have to know your child
Yeah.
and your child has to know you.
Yeah.
So have that element of trust.
Yeah.
That's important.
Yeah.
And then the world doesn't really matter.
True.
So it's tough for parents. It's tough, but if they could do this, I can guarantee the relationship will become even more meaningful with their children.
Children. So true.
Yeah.
So true. And I mean, especially with girls and sports, I
Yeah.
think there has always been a like boys and sports have always gone a hand in hand,
Yeah.
right? And girls and sports, not so much,
Yeah. Yeah.
right? And today, obviously, the world changed significantly. We've had very big sports, women sports icons also
True.
to look up to.
True. True.
Um, uh, but there is, I think it's still not there. Still
Ha.
quite some time to
Yeah.
go. But from your experience, what is that?
I think
Yeah,
also, I believe also the people in authority are largely men. Uh, so it's tough.
yeah,
No doubt it's tough. But the achievements have been also huge.
yeah,
And I think to have telecast women's World Cup, whether it's football, whether it's cricket,
yeah,
um, and to have these now as a platform is inspirational for any girl who wants to
yeah,
do something competitive in that
yeah,
field.
yeah,
you know so whether it's an individual, whether it's gymnastics, whether it's badminton,
yeah,
whether it's a team sport, I think the platform is there.
yeah,
Of course, it's way behind the men's, but they've had a lead of at least like 100 years.
yeah.
If you think of it, the Arsenal Football Cup started in the late 19th century.
Mm-hmm.
I think some 1894 or something.
Okay.
If the Gunners fan will not kill me for this. But my point
Yes,
is, the organized sport for men started that much earlier.
earlier.
Of course, the environment was different, the social structure was different. The like marathon for women only started, I think, with the Boston Marathon, if I'm not mistaken, in the late 1960s, where there were only men allowed.
Mm-hmm.
I hope I've got the marathon right.
Yeah,
There's this woman who was hiding in the crowd.
Yeah.
When it started, she just ran into
yeah.
for the
Yeah.
race.
Read the story somewhere. Yeah.
And it was telecast live, and everyone's like, who's this woman running? And that's how it started.
Yeah.
So it has to be an act of rebellion.
Yeah. Yeah.
So girls in sports is tough, but I think if we look at it always from that perspective, it will always seem a heavy task or a heavy goal for girls.
Yeah.
I think if they focus first on themselves first,
Mm-hmm.
okay, you can have these icons,
Yeah.
but focus on yourself
Yeah.
and see what you're good at. See what you're not good at, and perhaps you can work on that.
Yeah.
Uh, the 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 wish to play has to be there first.
True.
You
True.
can't be forced, right?
Yeah.
So if the wish is there to play, I want to play, the drive is there, you play to your capacity.
Mm-hmm.
Then to be guided, if you really want to get organized about this,
Yeah.
then take out the time.
Yeah.
Then it becomes a family scene where, okay, acha, committed to this sport, now organize logistics around this for our child, for our girl.
Yeah.
So that has to be, and then not to put pressure on her.
Yeah.
I'm not talking of girls who want to prepare for competitions.
Mm-hmm.
I'm talking about the 97%
Yeah.
of them that actually really want to play.
True.
I'm talking about them.
Yeah.
Because largely
Yeah.
our majority is that, no?
That's I think 97 percentile is such a it's such a big number.
Yeah.
But when you think about it, and I've been following, for example, I've had the opportunity to meet a lot of Indian women's cricketers,
Yeah.
and hence I've been following women's cricket for a very long time, and seen how long it's taken for like a women's IPL to happen, or for a batsman to be called a batter now, right? Because women, it was a woman
True.
batsman for the longest of time
True,
for
true.
that to be changed,
True,
right?
true.
And but no one. So you still talk about that 1 percentile, 2 percentile who would just get
Yeah.
to the top where
Yeah.
infrastructure. But the 97, 98 percentile who want to just play and have fun and express
Exactly.
themselves for it to
Exactly.
be their safe space. I don't know if there are enough conversations happening.
I don't think so,
Yeah.
because largely what's fed to us what we discussed or what we talk about
Yeah.
in informal conversations or in schools is largely got to do with result-based sports.
Sports. Yeah.
Each to their own, because maybe a school is known in sports for
Of
a
course.
school
Yeah.
is recognized for its sports,
Yeah.
then that's the kind of admissions they want. So we're not talking the commercial side of it,
Yeah.
each one to their own. But when it comes to these largely this percentage of children,
Yeah.
um, there is, I agree with you,
Yeah.
there's not much conversation going
Yeah.
on there.
Yeah.
We had one school, though, I must say, who for about 3-4 months organized, and we organized it for them on weekends, was a father child program,
Wow.
play program. We organized, and there were, I think, must be about 30-40 fathers coming in. So each section from a class, each section was coming on a Saturday, and there was an hour of activity for a father and a child.
Wow.
And we tell the father, you are not being the coach here. You will be a child with your child. Perhaps bring back your childhood and play.
Yeah.
And the kind of feedback
Yeah.
when they left was like,
Yeah.
some of them had tears because it brought back memories of them as children. Some of them say, I rarely get to do this with my child,
Yeah.
son or daughter,
Yeah.
because I work 6 days a week. I had to take off or say come late on a Saturday because I told my office I'm going to school for 1 hour.
Yeah.
And they absolutely loved it.
Wow.
Again, goes back to what we were talking earlier, is that till we as adults or parents don't feel it within ourselves,
Yeah.
it won't show.
Yeah.
Otherwise, we'll just end up perhaps outsourcing something which could be so beautiful.
Yeah. I mean, what it could mean to a child, this whole experience of
Yeah, absolutely.
bonding with a parent. I think one is on this journey for parents who are already in this journey, the kids playing,
Yeah.
the child's playing a sport, for example, and the child's very interested in the sport, right? And very interested. They're having fun while playing the sport, right? What is that? Is there something that the parents need to look out for to say, hey, they want to double down on this? From that point of view, to say, get a little more serious from that point of view. Another question that a lot of parents also ask, and even before this, is how do I pick what sport? Right?
Yeah.
There's so many options today.
Yeah.
And I think especially if you're staying in like a Delhi, NCR, Bangalore, so many options, so many academies, so many different sports.
True.
Where do you start from that point of view? Are there any pointers for both of these?
Yeah, for sure. I think first is, for the first X period of time, is to be physically present as much as you can when your child is playing, from an observer point of view. Because if you don't see how your child is playing, you won't know their ability. You won't know their personality on the field. You won't know how they are when they have to be in a group. Whether it's a basketball academy or a football academy, you won't know. So don't leave it up to the coach. Saying, sir, how is my child? I mean, to be fair, he is probably looking at 30 people, 30 kids. To then single out saying, acha, there's one kid now I have to speak on, it's a bit unfair. All right. Unless he's some super god, that's different. All right. But largely, to observe. Sit and just watch. Aram se dekho. Okay. So first is to observe. And then you feel that, okay, I think this is something that they're good at. Then perhaps maybe speak with the coach saying, I feel, what do you think? Because the important thing is not to rush this. It's for life. It's a marathon. It's not a 100-meter dash. Right. So take his cue. If he's a good coach, he'll say, okay, give it some time. Abhi familiarity set ho rahi hai. Confidence बढ़ रहा है. Abhi छोड़ दो. Good. Means a good coach. He's patient. And then at certain point later, he could probably have these progressions where every academy has these progressions where you move into a slightly more challenging group. So that is there. Which sport to pick up? It's a tough one. But Largely before the age of 9, 10, get them to play as much as possible, as many sports. Because at that age, they're like sponges.
Yeah.
Whether it is football, basketball, learn swimming,
Yeah.
table tennis. So the physical ability of hand-eye coordination, feet-eye coordination, agility, stamina, all this comes in. The being in a group, the familiarity that sets in with it, the confidence that might come from one sport, but very shy with the other. You probably make okay, this is a single sport, not looking very shy, but is real cheetah when it comes to the team sport. Maybe they enjoy being in a group
Yeah.
because they don't want the spotlight, everything on them
Yeah.
at the moment. So I think it is, first of all, let them play.
So, yeah.
Let them keep rotating. And I tell parents who come to me, I say, look, our role as at the auto sport is get them to be really good at their physical ability. So build on the foundation.
Yeah.
As I was just telling, like agility, hand-eye coordination, feet-eye coordination, short bursts of movements, so that later when they have to pick up any sport,
Yeah.
their muscles are used to moving in that direction.
Yeah.
So you don't see this in schools.
Yeah.
The PT teacher will give a football, and there'll be like 60 students. They're all running after it.
Yeah.
Or chalo 20 students.
Yeah.
Huh? Okay,
Yes,
it's a PT
yes.
class. Fine,
Yeah.
fair enough. But has perhaps a teacher, I hope there is a teacher somewhere out there who's doing this. Before you learn a sport, teach them how to be agile. Sprint forward,
Yeah.
jog sideways, zigzag, sprint forward, sprint sideways.
Yeah.
So your muscles are learning to move in a different direction, and not like a whale where you have to move your entire body to move in a different direction.
Yeah.
Fundamentals of any
Yes.
sport.
Yes.
Pick a sport, it's that.
Yeah.
Right. So if
Yeah.
if children are given that kind of exposure, they are bound to pick up some sport which they will love,
Yeah.
because the body is used to moving in that direction, and the confidence comes like that.
Yeah. No, that's fair. I remember how dodgeball used to be such a big part of our cricket warm up. We used to have so much fun.
Brilliant,
And
no?
again, agility. Yeah.
Yeah.
From that point. I mean, great discussion, Richard. I think we can keep talking for hours in length, especially about when it comes to sports. But has parting notes as we end this podcast. If there is one advice, what we like to call it in the podcast, the Sitaara Advice, that you'd want to give to all parents when it comes to children and sports, what would that be?
I think take the time to know your child first before anything else, because that needs patience.
Yeah.
That needs restraint, because you have to fight your own bias.
Yeah.
So patience, restraint, and a lot of mindfulness.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
in my experience, you have these three, you're largely setting up a trusting and affectionate relationship with your child.
True.
I think that's important.
True. I think that's really, really nicely put. I think as a person who's played sports, who has a daughter, who I wish, who I had introduced to sports, who I wish picks up an interest, final calls her, I mean, obviously hers. I think my, personally for me, the biggest takeaway is been to be a parent. Right, and that comes with what you also said: restraint, to be patient with the whole thing, because this thing. Thank you so much, Richard. This has
Thank you
been
very much,
such a
Anju.
wonderful conversation, and
you.
I'm sure parents who have been watching this have had a lot to learn. I hope play sports continues to be the safe space for children. For girls and for boys, right? I hope that does happen. Thank you so much for sharing everything.
Thank you for having me over, Banju. Thank you. Really enjoyed this. Thank you.
Bye-bye.